Good afternoon, everyone. It's Nick Augustine here with Mark Scroggins, Scroggins Law Group.
I wanted to talk about, mental health and addiction stuff because with all of the shelter in place and don't go do this and don't go do that, that's really become problematic. If you had a problem, it's kind of like the same thing with, you know, my experience so far in this, the 6 weeks of this has, as far as like the divorce world goes, is it has either made you find out, just how close you are with your spouse and, while still being irritated with them occasionally, or that you are just done with that person. And so, you know, with those kind of big earth-shattering decisions, a lot of stuff can transpire when it comes to, drinking and drugs and depression and it's a scary time. So talking about the new normal, or at least the temporary normal. I had a big temporary order hearing yesterday with all kinds of drama and allegations going from both sides. That was done via Zoom, and I would much rather be in court in person doing this. I don't think it has the same effect. But it works in a pinch, so to speak, when you've got serious allegations that are dealt with. So since the last time we did a podcast, I don't think anything has changed too dramatically on that. There are some courts now that are doing, that are hearing cases via Zoom that are quote unquote not essential. Okay. So typically what the courts had been doing was they were hearing, in the family law arena anyway, they were hearing protective order cases. They were hearing cases where there were abuse allegations with kids, or serious allegations that would give rise to getting a temporary restraining order. So beside actions outside of what's covered by the standing orders in Dallas, Denton, Collin counties. Okay, so you were having that. Now it seems like you are having some additional hearings depending on the court. And so that, once again, is the issue here, is that we don't have continuity among courts in counties, much less, across the state. So, well, no, we don't. And frankly, that's something that really pisses me off. I mean, I think it's a little ridiculous, so like, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here for a second, but e-filing. So electronic filing of cases. When I started practicing law back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, we didn't have any of that electronic filing. I mean, you had runners that were generally employed by your, there you go, that was employed by your law office, that was sent, at 4:15 to haul ass down to the courthouse to try to get that thing filed and set. Okay?
Driving on sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, nuts, and sometimes it was a two-person job, so they could drive someone up to the front and the other could jump out with a banker box to go file all this crap.
Stapling things in the vehicle on the way, paper clips. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, exhibit stickers, all that stuff. So, but now, with everything being, it is now required electronic filing, but there's still no continuity to that. So the electronic filing requirements in Dallas are different from those in Collin, which are different from those in Denton, which are different from those in Tarrant, which are different from those in Travis or Austin, as people know, or Harris or Houston, as people know. So it's different all over the damn place. And there's really, I don't understand the reasoning for it, aside from, I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but, local politics of, it's just like you don't have the counties using the same software platforms and stuff, which, would seem to make more sense, and would seem to make more sense from a financial standpoint, where you could buy that crap in bulk instead of, county by county by county.
Like a statewide program or something.
Yeah, but, nobody has contacted me saying, Mark, damn it, what should we do to make this better? If you have a situation where you need to get a divorce, let's talk about what you can expect, okay? Are there kids involved? If there are kids involved, let me back up for just a second. So as everybody knows, when there are kids, you've got two pieces to a divorce. You've got the division of the marital estate, and you've got the kid issues, child custody, which involve conservatorship and possession and access, right? okay? If you just have a property divorce, unless you've got a situation where someone is moving money overseas and there are necessary steps that need to be taken basically to freeze accounts and stuff like that, or to to get a temporary restraining order in a situation where you really have some unusual circumstances, you're not going to get hurt right away. Okay. You're going to file and you're going to sit and wait, and you're going to probably start going through discovery, because you're not going to get hurt on, just, gosh, I want him out of the house, or gosh, I want her out of the house. You're not going to hear that unless you've got abuse allegations. Okay. Right. So just because someone's an asshole doesn't mean that that's going to hurry up and get you into the courthouse. That being said, if you've got something with those extraordinary things, like, let's just use the old thing of, sending money offshore to the Cayman Islands, or maybe it would be, more appropriate to talk about Panama, with the Panama Papers that I guess were the most recent release, probably 4 years ago. That's a situation where you might get in. Okay. But otherwise, typically it's going to be if you've got kid issues where they're violence issues. Okay. So if you do have something that you're going to get into, in those situations, you need to make sure that your attorney knows what they're doing and knows to look at, okay, not just what are the local rules for the county. You need to look at what has been promulgated by the Supreme Court, who has said no in-person, non-essentials until June 1. And you need to then know what the individual courts are requiring. So like the court I was in yesterday required that we had to produce all exhibits to the court reporter by noon the day before the hearing, and to opposing counsel as well. Well, that's very unusual in a temporary order situation. That is the really last bastion of the Wild West, where you're not letting somebody know what you've got. So it really has changed the game, I think, to some degree. And then the question becomes, is the court enforcing what those rules are? Some do, some don't. It kind of depends on what the scenario is. And so it's important to know all of those types of things. And then, like if you're in Collin County, as we've talked about a million times before, you've got 20 minutes per side. So depending on the complexity of the issues, that can be really, really difficult to do in person, much less via Zoom, where you're trying to, get exhibits in. And, how do you do that? Are you doing that by a share screen? Is the court reporter putting it up? Is the judge putting it up? So it's an interesting time.
Well, just with document. So when you're introducing something into evidence and you have to supposed to show your opposing counsel, here's Exhibit A, which I'm offering in for, how does that work? You hold it up to the camera?
Well, so I mean, there's an ability to share screen right on here. So if I'm on Zoom and I go to the very bottom, it says share screen, and so I can share whatever is on that screen, and you can do it that way. But then that is not, you want to make sure that that is the same document that was actually provided. It's just, my point being, it's fraught with issues. Okay. So make sure that you hire someone that understands what's involved in this process and knows how to take the time to get the case ready. I mean, I've told many people, trying a case over 3 days or 5 days, can be a lot of fun, but also for the lawyer. But it's easy to do when you've got all of that time to be able to get in what you need. When you are taking all of that and shoving it through a funnel to basically get the Cliff's Notes of the issues, that's difficult. When you add technology that creates an additional wrinkle, it makes it that much more interesting. So you want to, my point on all of that is, you want to be very strategic in the use of hearings in these situations, because, getting something across, you can't tell, am I 5'8" or am I 6'8"? As I sit here, you don't have any idea, right? Okay. So it's the same thing with a person, sitting there looking at a camera as compared to looking at a judge in person or opposing counsel in person. It plays different. It just plays different. And so there are just all kinds of strategic things that I think are really important to take into consideration when you're making those determinations.
You think moving forward that Zoom will still be used for some of the things that we talked about, where there's certain circumstances where you talked about in our last couple programs where it really can be a useful tool.
I really hope so. I hope it is. I don't want, I think once everybody can get back into the courtroom, every lawyer I've talked to, that's a trial lawyer would much rather be in the courtroom.
Absolutely.
That being said, I think there are specific circumstances where it can be, a godsend, and not just in the realm of family law, but additionally, I think about judges, that are general jurisdiction, or specific to criminal, like they have in Dallas, and those folks that have to, sign warrants and stuff like that on weekends, at 11 o'clock at night or something like that. I would think the ability to use technology such as Zoom would make their lives a hell of a lot easier,
Sure.
and I think that's fantastic. I can also think if there are scenarios in a family law case where you truly have an emergency, okay, and that can run the gamut on different things, it would be fantastic to be able to file something and have the court just, be able to pop everything up on Zoom, bring the attorneys on and discuss that. And so I see the ability to do that. Now that's just how I believe that it could be useful. Now the question is, will it be utilized in that fashion? It's kind of like, most people, I'm about to turn 53. Okay. So I remember what it was like not having a cell phone. I remember when someone, before there were pagers, and then when pagers were the big thing. And I remember my first cell phone that was a freaking brick, that was like that. And that was the really slick version because it wasn't carrying the thing around in a little suitcase,
Yeah.
But the point is, technology's got both good and bad. It was really nice that when you left the office back in those days, unless somebody had your home number, you were done. You weren't talking about it. And you weren't really going home and pulling up a bunch of crap on your computer that you could pull on the internet because the internet was in its infancy.
Do you remember people unplugging their fax machines at 5 o'clock on Friday, saying no emergencies for Monday?
I lost you.
People unplugging their fax machines at 4:30 on Friday because they didn't want to have an emergency on Monday.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I mean, there were some lawyers that were well known for turning those things off a little early, just specifically so they couldn't get notice of anything set for Monday morning. So, it's the good and the bad of everything. I'm hopeful that it can. I'm hopeful that we will get back into the courtroom sooner rather than later. My guess is that you're going to probably have some kind of joint use of in-person and electronic access for a period of time, but I don't know. That's the thing with all of this. I mean, hell, they just opened up, restaurants now restaurants you can go where there's 25, they can only have 25% of folks there, which is supposed to increase to 50%, in another 2 weeks if there aren't any fallbacks. But nobody knows what's around the corner. If they tell you they do, they're lying. So it's tricky. It's a little tricky,
Well, adapting some of the, people are talking about restaurants, and a friend of mine was talking about the margaritas to go, and will place down the road still deliver you your margaritas. And, you wonder how many, and everyone's joking about, their coronavirus workout plans, and like, what happens when you go and have to put a suit on and the pants don't fit. And so a lot of people are trying to, like, when this is over, we're going to go back to, life as we knew it before. But in the meantime, some people have really maybe ran into some challenges with, I saw a friend of mine who's very outspoken about alcohol and drug addiction and rehab. She works with a lot of people in the jails, and she was talking about people struggling right now with, going to meetings and everything that they were doing to keep the best version of them going. And
Right.
like, it's real easy when it seems like the world is collapsing in around you, that a lot of the addiction issues and the mental health things can come popping up. I mean, there's nothing like this to, I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't have some sort of mental health issues. And when a lot of mental health people talk about homeless and people on the streets, that necessarily, absolutely, they're suffering from some sort of mental health disease or issue that obviously can be a lot of times cured and attended to. But, you know, a situation like this, I mean, you know, we joke about it driving people nuts, but it's no laughing matter when you've got people who are already struggling.
Yeah. You know, here's the problem. I mean, I'm trying to remember, what was the old saying, you know, idle hands are the devil's playground or something like that.
Idle inmates. I learned that in college in a class like idle inmates. That's why they have exercise things, because otherwise they learn how to be jailhouse lawyers and learn to be better criminals on the way out.
Well, there's generally a talk about it being finishing school in that regard. But I mean, that's a whole nother subject. I mean, that's kind of crazy on how do you deal and how do you do things when you've got a pandemic, and that is, I don't know the answer to that. I'm glad that I don't have to come up with the answer to that. But, you know, for the rest of us that are not in jail, a lot of people, you know, first you've got a lot of people that have been either furloughed or they have been outright fired. Okay. A lot of people that have not, you know, everybody's working remotely, and it's an abnormal situation for those that do not do it all the time, especially if now you have everybody in the family that is in the house. So I have been working primarily from my house. I still come into one of my offices every once in a while, especially when I really can't be disturbed at all. And that's the key. So I'm there, and I've got, you know, it's a small household now. It's me and my wife. My daughter has actually been with us an awful lot because the University of Texas Law School is virtual. And so she was here when it was, you know, okay, everybody stick where you are, you know, kind of thing. And I got to tell you, you know, I love my wife and I love my daughter, but, you know, I want to love them from afar a little bit every once in a while because everybody's been in one place for 6 months, right? So different people have different coping mechanisms, and being locked down, and I say locked down, and that's really a poor choice of words, but let me try to make an example of it. I have always said that being in the Pacific Northwest is not a good place for me because of, it might be beautiful when it is not raining, but it rains so much that frankly, it makes me depressed. I don't like that. I need sunshine. I
spent 3 months in West Seattle, 3 months.
Yeah.
It never actually rains. It just mists all the time.
Yeah. So I've been up there on business plenty, and I've got to tell you, I've never been when it has just been sunny. And when the sun comes out, man, it is green and gorgeous, but otherwise it is depressing. And I don't like that. I mean, anybody knows me, knows that on days that it is nice, like today, for example, I'm going to have the top down on the car and get some vitamin D by driving the convertible around.
Yeah, I'll be out on the
I
lake
love
paddling.
that. Yeah. So maybe I should do that, you know, but the point is everybody's got different coping mechanisms. And so it is very easy when you feel like your whole life is in this little bitty area, and the little things that we take for granted, being able to run to the store and get this without any risk, or being able to do, you know, play a pickup basketball game, go to the gym, get your hair cut. I mean, hell, I had to buy clippers, and I mean, it looks okay in front, but I think I'm damn near getting a mullet, you know? So,
yeah, I'm kind of going to rock the mullet here.
Yeah. So, I mean, the point is with people, when all of this pressure starts to be applied, it affects people in different ways. Some people are incredibly resilient, you know, and they've really relied on their spiritual life, and that has helped them. That has helped me an awful lot. But some people are just racked with depression, and the coping mechanism is drugs or alcohol. And, you know, I've heard plenty of people, you know, talk about, you know, day drinking an awful lot, you know, and what time is happy hour? Well, you know, it depends. Do you have anything going on? And so the amount of alcohol being consumed, that's right. And, you know, the amount of weed being smoked by people and other drugs. My point is, you've got to be freaking careful with that, man, because that stuff can bite you in the ass. And from initially just looking at what it can do to you individually, not even looking at what the effects can be on those around you. Okay. It can, especially alcohol, that shit will kill you. It is one of the few things that coming off of it will actually kill you. Most things, when you come off of them, will not. You might feel like it will, but they won't. But alcohol, you can actually get delirious tremens and die from that. Okay. So that's just looking at from the medical standpoint of what it can do to you. But from a case standpoint, man, that can ruin a case. You want to be, you know, super dad or super mom. Well, guess what? If you're impaired, you can't be. Okay. And if your other spouse says, I've had enough, and they're going to go down to the courthouse and they're going to file and say that you're a danger to the kids, and they can show all the drinking and drug use and all this, guess what? You're going to have limited access and very possibly some supervised access until you can get your shit together. Okay. So just the damage that is done, if you're mommy or daddy who is with these kids all the time, and now you can't be because, you know, king alcohol has got a hold of you, or some drugs have got a hold of you, that's going to change your life. And I'll tell you what, it's going to change your life in a way that you don't like it. Now, here's the good news. Okay. There is a shit ton of help out there for anybody who is suffering from addiction or depression. The problem is that these two seem to be so interlinked to me. This is just my opinion. This is not a medical opinion. Mm-hmm. But depression and addiction seem to be so interlinked. It is a really nasty combination where the one is telling you, don't reach out for help. Nobody's going to understand. Nobody really cares, which is absolute utter bullshit. There are people out there that care, that are there to help, that would do anything, you know, take you to an AA meeting, take you to a rehab facility, you know, get you into treatment, will do things to help, but you've got to be willing to reach out. Okay. So that's the good news. That's all fixable. From the litigation side as well, it can be fixed. If you can get sober, if you can get clean, and you can continue on that path, guess what? You're going to be able to be an involved parent again. Okay. So all of that is fixable. There are plenty of people, I think, that believe I'm never going to be able to be in my kid's life. I'm such a screw up. I've done X, Y, and Z. Well, you have to do a lot of really horrible stuff to have your parental rights terminated. Okay. So most stuff is fixable, but here's the best way to avoid all of that. Don't go there in the first place.
Right.
You know, if you think you have a drinking problem or a drug problem, you probably do. Okay. Because regular drinkers or regular, you know, drug users, that sounds kind of funny, but let's just talk about weed because that probably falls more into that category. But people who just recreationally use, don't wonder if they've got drug or alcohol problems. Okay. So if you're thinking about it, you're probably right on the cusp if you don't already have the problem. And there are lots of solutions there. So be wary, be vigilant, take care of yourself, man. It's there. So be wary, be vigilant, take care of yourself, man. Take care of yourself. It's important for you. It's important for your family. And it's important for those little people that are learning what life is about from you. Okay. So,
you know, it's got, when you talk about kids, there's a lot of kids with a lot of questions. You know, why can't I go back to school? You know, the kids are asking a lot of the same critical questions. You know, we think that kids don't know much, but they are smart. They have good critical thought. They see things from the perspective of like are you smart as the 5-year-old or the 5th grader or whatever it is. And they don't interlace all the other BS that adults do within their thought process. So they see things from a really black and white thing, and they may ask some questions that we're like, you know what, son, I can't answer that because I got the same question. And, you know, where they're expecting you as parents to be the ones who know everything. You know, you're the supreme ruler, you're the smartest person, you're the most professional, you're the one who's got it together your most because you're my daddy, you know. And
right.
It's, it's, you know, what, it's got to be difficult. You know, another thing that people are, I've heard a lot of people talking about contacting exes during this time. and people reaching out and saying, well, we know that so-and-so's home, the one who got away, or maybe I was recently divorced and I'm going back thinking who, you know, because everyone's home and didn't have anything to do for a while. You know, that was
Right.
the little thing that came out of this.
Yep. There's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of that. There's been a lot, there've been a lot of people too who've, been having affairs, and, all of a sudden they're at home with their spouse all the time. Guess what? That shit comes out. So, this is a new time where, life is littered with mines. So the best way to avoid the mines is try to have as few of them as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And, a good way to figure that out, if you've got concerns, hell, if anybody's got concerns about addiction and mental health, call us. We'll give you some names of some people to call and some directions to go. Nobody wants you to see, your life get messed up. And there's help out there to be had. If you're in a situation where you need help with a child custody matter or a divorce case, reach out to us. We can help walk you through this in what are difficult times. And, and here's the thing, man, when you take those steps and you take the right steps to get better and to do the right thing or to take the right action, it's like a weight being lifted off the shoulders, and, and life gets better.
It does. And this, that's cliche to say this too shall pass. And who knows what the next thing could be. We could be invaded by space aliens. Chupacabra could show up. I mean, anything's possible. So we just got to
never know that. The Navy just released the, UFO videos the other day. So who knows, man? Maybe you're right. All I know is all that shit needs to get straightened out so that I can see some Texas football this fall, or else there are going to be some real issues.
Right. And go to the game and not have them playing with empty stands. I mean, that's
right.
Who knows? But, and I would say too, again, I've said this before, I'll say it again, please be careful of social media. It is when people have, a lot of us are still working, but those who are not working have nothing to do, it seems, but be an expert on Dr. Fauci
Everything.
or de Blasio or whoever's doing what. And it's really easy to get sucked into a bunch of psychosis. It's like tornadoes all over the place, try to stay away from that. Yeah.
That is absolutely right. That is very sage advice.
Right. Well, and as my good friend Mark says, think about it, don't post it.
Well, that's right. Don't press send.
Don't press send.
Don't press send, man. That is a great way to get yourself in trouble.
All right. Well, everyone, please be well. Any last words of wisdom or thoughts?
Just be careful out there. Sounds kind of cliche, but really, just be careful out there. Take care of yourself. Be kind to others. Remember the old thing that your mom used to say of, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Well, try doing that. I know I have a hard time doing that, right. but you got to try, and that I guarantee you that will help you a lot.
We're all on short fuses right now. I was on a walk through my neighborhood the other day, and I waved at some people who didn't wave back from me, and I just about wanted to pop their heads off. And just like, keep going, just keep going. Yeah. Stay in your lane.
Right. That's exactly right, man. That is exactly right. So everybody stay well out there. If you got an issue, call us, 214-469-3100. You can also always email me directly, Mark at Scroggins Law Group. We are here to help.
All right, Mark. Good talking to you, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye now.